This video will be a tutorial of flapping, and this concept I'm about to demonstrate is transferable from design projects as well as drawing projects, so pay attention. For the online students, this doesn't apply to you because I will not require y'all to flap your project. Flapping a project allows the project to remain protected once it's turned in and kind of carried around by different people, if the teacher's bringing them back to the office or whatnot. It also allows the teacher to write comments. Nice or terrible. So that is something that's a huge benefit when it comes to grading, because then you can point right to something and draw it or write it right on the tracing paper. So in this example, because for you in-person students, you will need to flap your project when you turn that into me. So remember that we had to trim down our Bristol board. It's not the full 17 by 14 piece. And your tracing paper is also 17 by 14. So we would need to trim him down too. What I'm gonna do is I'm going to flap him first and then trim him later. Similar to how I put down my strip of black construction paper first and then trimmed him later. So how I like to flap, and there's many different ways how to do this, just like in assembling this whole project, there's many different ways how you can glue or cut or trim or measure. But with flapping, I find that it's much easier to start off without this Bristol board pad. I've got my tape, my artist tape. This happens to be masking tape. I didn't have the white artist tape with me handy, but the masking tape will work just as well. I get a strip that I know is a little bit longer than what it is that I'm flapping, and I'm gonna flap on the upper top edge. So I'm gonna take this, oh, no! Ah. Okay. I'm gonna keep the tape face up so the sticky side is up. I'm gonna wrap those edges down on the table so that it's secure on the table. Just like that. I'm gonna take my tracing paper. Remember, your tracing paper is translucent, so you can see partially through it. I'm gonna bring my tracing paper and I'm going to bring it up halfway. I'm gonna visually judge how far halfway is up the tape. I'm gonna make sure that it's parallel. Try not to make it angled or anything like that. Do the best you can. Right there is good. Boop. Smooth that out. Okay, just like that. You'll notice, by the way, that my tracing paper is wrinkly, and that's because I was caught in the rain today. Tropical Storm Sally is on its way to greet us, and I was caught in some of the rain spitters. So please forgive me for that. Please try to have a clean, nice, crisp sheet of tracing paper. I did not have this protected in the tracing paper pad. I have this loose leaf. So that's another reason why you should keep your tracing paper inside the pad that it's in. But in the event that something happens, maybe you're walking with your project on the way to class or something and rain gets on it, like, that's fine. I'm not gonna, if I know that the weather's crazy, like, you can't do anything about that. So now, you're gonna take your project and you're gonna flip it face down. Remember, we're flapping along the top edge though. And so this is the top of my project. This is the top edge. I'm going to line this up with the tracing paper. I'm gonna line it up to that corner, and I'm gonna line the top edge of the Bristol board to the top edge of the tracing paper. Gonna make it a right edge, so it's right down the left edge there. And I'm gonna hold this down, and I'm gonna take the tape, and starting from the middle, I'm gonna flip it over. Okay, I'm gonna systematically pull it down. Nope, just like that. Okay. Try to get it as smooth as possible. I know you can only do so much, but try to get it as smooth and even as possible. Kind of spread your fingers out. I do it this way too, because if you get any wrinkles like this, they're on the back of the project, not on the front. Okay? So now we have flapped the project right on the top there. Can you see that? There we go, to reposition it where the camera can see it. Now we still have the issue of trimming the tracing paper down to the size of your 12 by 16. I do remember what the dimensions were. For your other projects, like in drawing class, you won't need to trim anything. This Bristol board for the line project in design class just happens to be smaller than the typical piece of Bristol board that we'll use. So usually you won't be trimming your tracing paper down when you flap. Usually you'll just flap and ta-da, that's it, and you'll only have to trim off the excess tape on the edges. But for this, we do need to trim off the excess tracing paper. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna flip this guy back upside down or face down. Use my T-square. Let's move my glue out of the way. I'm gonna line the T-square metal up at the edge of my Bristol board. I'm gonna grab my X-Acto knife, make sure that he's nice and tight in there so that the blade doesn't come out. And I am going to trim him down. Just like that. Oh, this guy didn't quite take. There we go. So I've now crisply chopped off not only the tracing paper, but also the tape. So there's a nice clean edge right there with the tape. Okay, I'm now gonna do the bottom. Remember, tracing paper is thin, so you don't have to push down super hard for this. Something is strangely not cutting straight. Might just be the material. There we go. Sometimes it takes a couple times. You wouldn't think it would with tracing paper, but for some reason, something was getting caught in the way. There we go. So be patient, do it a couple times. And now we have a piece of tracing paper that's flapped and cut to size for our project. The only thing left is to take care of this little piece of tape, and you can use an X-Acto knife, or since he's so small, I'm actually gonna just take scissors and trim him just like that. Voila, I now have my flapped project as a nice piece of tape that looks evenly measured across the top. It's not precisely perfect, but visually it looks very nice and clean and horizontal. In the back we don't worry too much about, but that looks pretty nice as well. And the tracing paper is in fact the correct size without doing too much work to measure him, just like how we had to for the Bristol board.